massive space station called Nexus Prime floated in the darkness between stars. Its metal walls stretched for miles in every direction, home to the most important organization in the galaxy. The Galactic Council of Survivors met here, and they were very proud of what they had achieved. Jake Miller walked through the long hallways of the station. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. He wore a simple blue uniform with small badges on his chest. The badges showed he had been a soldier on Earth, but the aliens around him did not know what that meant yet. The aliens he passed were all different shapes and sizes. Some walked on 4 legs, others slithered on the ground. A few had wings, though they did not need them in space. All of them had one thing in common. They came from worlds that tried to kill them every day. Jake reached a large door that slid open with a quiet hiss. Inside was a huge round room with seats arranged in a circle. At the center stood a platform where speakers could address the council. The room buzzed with strange sounds as different alien species talked in their own languages. Commander Zethkar sat in one of the larger seats. His body looked like it was made of gray stone with sharp edges and deep scars. His people, the Vorthak, came from a world covered in ice. On that world, crystal formations grew like trees, but these crystals were alive and hungry. They would grab any creature that came too close and drain its life away. The Vorthak learned to fight these crystal predators with weapons made from the same deadly crystals. High Counselor Erix occupied the biggest seat in the room. She looked like a tall lizard with purple scales that seemed to glow in the light. Her people, the Meltani, survived on a world where acid rain fell from the sky every day. The ground was always shaking from volcanoes that never stopped erupting. The Meltani built their cities underground and learned to eat the poisonous plants that were the only food available. There were 12 other species in the council, each with their own story of survival. The Saurians fought giant predators on a world where everything wanted to eat everything else. The Kethmori survived on a planet where the gravity was so strong that moving required constant effort. The Zephyrins came from a world with storms that never ended, where the wind could cut through metal. These were the survivors, the toughest species in the galaxy. They had earned their place by conquering worlds that would kill most living things. They made the rules for trade, war, and peace among the stars. No weak species could join their ranks. Jake stood on the platform and looked around the room. The alien stared back at him with eyes that had seen terrible things. Some of those eyes were small and black. Others were large and glowing. A few aliens had no eyes at all, but Jake could feel them watching him anyway. "I am Jake Miller," he said in a clear voice. "I speak for the people of Earth. We request membership in the Galactic Council of Survivors." A sound like laughter came from several aliens. Others made clicking or hissing noises that might have meant the same thing. High Counselor Erix raised one of her clawed hands and the room became quiet. "Tell us about your world, human," she said. Her voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "What great dangers did your species overcome?" Jake pulled out a small device that projected images in the air above his head. The first image showed Earth from space, a blue and green ball covered with white clouds. "This is Earth," Jake said, "our home world." More sounds of laughter came from the aliens. Commander Zethkar spoke up, his voice deep and rough. "That looks like a garden world. We see water, plants, and gentle weather. Where are the dangers?" Jake touched his device and the image changed to show a forest on Earth. Green trees grew everywhere and sunlight filtered down through the leaves. Birds flew between the branches and small animals moved on the forest floor. "Our world has many different environments," Jake explained. "Forests, deserts, oceans, and icelands. The temperature is usually comfortable for life." High Counselor Erix leaned forward in her seat. "Human Jake Miller, the Council of Survivors, is not for species from garden worlds. We are warriors who conquered death itself. Your pretty planet with its gentle rains and warm sunshine does not qualify you to sit with us. We understand you have concerns," Jake said calmly. "We are prepared to undergo your standard evaluation process." The alien council members looked at each other. They spoke in quick, sharp sounds in their own languages. Jake waited patiently while they discussed. Finally, High Counselor Erix spoke again. "Very well. You will face our trials. We will test your pain tolerance, your survival instincts, and your ability to adapt to hostile environments. These tests were designed based on the experiences of every species in this council. They measure what it truly means to be a survivor." Commander Zethkar stood up from his seat. His stone-like body made grinding sounds as he moved. "I will oversee the physical trials. Your species will learn what real strength means. A new alien spoke from across the room. This one looked like a giant insect with 6 arms and compound eyes. I am Huntmaster Grix of the Saurians. I will evaluate your combat reflexes and predator instincts. Jake nodded to each of them. We accept your trials. When do we begin? Tomorrow, High Counselor Irix decided. Prepare yourself, human. Many species have requested membership in our council. All of them failed our tests. Garden World dwellers always do. The meeting ended and the aliens began to leave. Jake heard them talking as they walked past him. Their voices were full of amusement and disbelief. They thought this would be easy. Another soft species from a comfortable world that would fail quickly and go home. Jake collected his device and walked toward the exit. He had expected this reaction. Earth did look peaceful from space. The preliminary data they had sent did make his homeworld seem like a paradise compared to the harsh planets these aliens came from. But Jake knew something the Council did not know yet. Earth looked beautiful and peaceful, but that was only part of the story. The real story of Earth was much more interesting and much more dangerous than any of these aliens could imagine. As he walked back to his small quarters on the station, Jake thought about the trials ahead. He had been through survival training in some of the worst places on Earth. He had faced dangers that would surprise these confident aliens. Tomorrow, they would begin to learn what it really meant to come from Earth. The tests would be interesting. The testing chamber looked like a metal cave with no windows. Strange machines lined the walls, their lights blinking in patterns that hurt to look at. Jake stood in the center of the room, wearing only simple clothing. Around him, the alien council members watched from behind thick glass windows. Commander Zethkar operated the main control panel. His stone fingers moved over buttons and switches with surprising gentleness. We begin with pain tolerance, he announced. Every survivor species must handle pain without losing control. A metal arm extended from the wall toward Jake. At its end was a device that looked like a small cup with wires coming out of it. Jake had seen similar equipment in military training, devices designed to cause pain without permanent damage. Place your hand in the receptor, Zethkar commanded. The machine will increase pain levels gradually. When you cannot handle more, say stop. Jake put his right hand into the device. It felt cold against his skin. A small hum filled the air, and then pain shot up his arm like electricity. It was sharp and burning, like touching a hot stove. The alien observers leaned forward to watch. On their worlds, this test usually ended quickly. Most species could handle only low levels of artificial pain before they gave up. The machine increased the pain level. Jake's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. The electricity feeling spread up his arm and into his shoulder. It felt like being stung by 100 wasps at the same time. Higher still, the machine went. The pain reached Jake's chest and neck. His breathing became deeper, but he remained standing straight. Sweat appeared on his forehead. Impressive, muttered Huntmaster Grix. Better than expected for a garden worlder. The pain level increased again. Now it felt like Jake's entire right side was on fire. The burning sensation reached his head, making his vision blur slightly. Still, he said nothing. Behind the glass, several council members made surprise sounds. Their own species typically failed the test by this point. High Counselor Irix watched with growing interest. The machine reached its highest setting. The pain was now beyond what most living things could endure. It felt like every nerve in Jake's body was being attacked with needles and flames at the same time. His muscles trembled from the effort of staying upright. Suddenly, sparks flew from the pain machine. Warning lights flashed red across the control panel. Commander Zethkar stared at his instruments in confusion. The device has overloaded, he said in disbelief. The human's nervous system is not responding as expected. The machine cannot measure his pain tolerance accurately. Jake pulled his hand out of the smoking device. He flexed his fingers and rolled his shoulder. Should I try a different machine? He asked calmly. The aliens looked at each other with expressions Jake was learning to recognize as surprise. High Counselor Irix spoke first. We moved to the next test. Survival instincts. The room changed around them. The walls shifted and rearranged themselves using technology Jake did not understand. Within minutes, he stood in what looked like a frozen wasteland. Fake snow fell from the ceiling, and cold wind blew across artificial ice. This simulates the ice plains of Vorthak Prime, Commander Zethkar explained. You must find shelter and warmth or freeze to death. Most species panic in such conditions. Jake looked around the artificial landscape. He saw scattered pieces of metal and what looked like frozen vegetation. The temperature was dropping quickly, and his breath began forming clouds in the air. He moved immediately toward the scattered materials. His hands worked quickly, sorting through the pieces. Within minutes, he had arranged metal sheets into a small windbreak. He gathered the plant material and used techniques learned in survival training to create insulation. Efficient, observed Huntmaster Grix. But the real test comes when conditions worsen. The simulation increased in difficulty. The temperature dropped further and the wind became stronger. Ice began forming on Jake's clothes and hair. Most species would be near death by this point. Jake adapted again. He found ways to block more wind and conserve body heat. He even managed to create a small amount of warmth by using friction between metal pieces. His movements were quick and confident, like someone who had faced such conditions before. The simulation changed again. Now Jake stood in a desert with burning sand and no water. Again he adapted, finding shelter from the heat and locating moisture in the artificial environment. The tests continued for hours. Poisonous atmosphere, crushing gravity, electrical storms. Each new challenge was meant to push him beyond his limits. But Jake handled each one with the same calm efficiency. Dr. Lisa Park arrived during the combat reflex testing. She was a woman in her 30s with short brown hair and intelligent eyes. She carried a large case full of equipment and data files. I brought the additional information you requested, she told High Counselor Erix. Detailed environmental data about Earth. While Jake faced simulated combat scenarios in the testing chamber, Dr. Lisa set up her presentation equipment. The combat tests were going as surprisingly as the others. Jake's reaction times were faster than the measuring devices expected. His ability to assess and respond to threats seemed far beyond what a garden world should produce. These results make no sense, Huntmaster Grix muttered as he watched Jake dodge attacks from robotic opponents. Garden world species do not develop such reflexes. Dr. Lisa heard this comment and smiled. That depends on how you define garden world, she said quietly. High Counselor Erix turned to look at her. Explain. Perhaps we should review Earth's environmental data more carefully, Dr. Lisa suggested. The preliminary survey may have been incomplete. The council members gathered around Dr. Lisa's equipment. She activated a display that showed detailed information about Earth's biosphere. Earth supports approximately 8.7 million species, she began. This biodiversity index exceeds anything in our galactic records. Biodiversity means a healthy, safe environment, Commander Zethkar said. More proof that humans come from a garden world. Dr. Lisa touched her display and new information appeared. Earth also hosts over 1,000 apex predator species currently alive, with evidence of thousands more in the fossil record. The aliens became very quiet. Apex predators were the most dangerous hunting animals on any world. Most planets had only one or two such species. That cannot be correct, High Counselor Irix said. No world can support so many top-level predators. Earth can and does, Dr. Lisa replied. Would you like to see examples? She showed them images and data about Earth's predators, great white sharks that could detect electrical fields and launch themselves completely out of water to catch prey, polar bears that were large enough to hunt seals through thick ice using patience and incredible strength, saltwater crocodiles that had remained unchanged for millions of years because they had achieved perfect predation. The council members made disturbed sounds as each new predator appeared on the display. Any one of these creatures would be the apex predator on their homeworlds. Earth had hundreds of them. This is just marine and large land predators, Dr. Lisa continued. We also have aerial hunters, pack hunters, ambush predators, venomous species, parasitic organisms, and more. In the testing chamber, Jake completed the final combat scenario. He had performed better than any species in the Council's history. As he walked out of the chamber, he saw the aliens staring at Dr. Lisa's presentation with expressions of growing alarm. Is everything all right? He asked. High Counselor Erix looked at him with new eyes. Dr. Park has been educating us about your world's ecosystem. Tell me, human Jake Miller, how does your species survive among so many dangerous predators? Jake thought about the question. We learned to be better predators, he said simply. The council chamber became completely silent. The aliens stared at Jake with a mixture of respect and something that might have been fear. They were beginning to understand that they had made a serious mistake about Earth. The main council chamber had been converted into a presentation hall. Dr. Lisa Park stood before the largest display screen the station had, with data and images filling the air around her. Every member of the Council of Survivors was present. Their attention focused completely on what she was showing them. Before we discuss Earth's current ecosystem, Dr. Lisa said, you need to understand our planet's history. She touched her control device, and the display showed a timeline stretching back millions of years. Earth has experienced 5 major mass extinction events. Each one eliminated between 70 and 90% of all life on the planet. Commander Zethkar leaned forward in his seat. His stone-like face showed confusion. If these extinctions killed most life, how does your world have so many species now? Because life on Earth always comes back, Dr. Lisa explained. Each extinction created evolutionary pressure that made the survivors stronger and more adaptable. The species that lived through these events had to be incredibly tough. The display changed to show Earth during different time periods. First came the ice ages, when most of the planet was covered in glaciers, then volcanic periods, when the air was full of ash and poisonous gases, asteroid impacts that turned day into night for years, climate changes that happened so fast that most life could not adapt quickly enough. Your species survived all of this? Asked High Counselor Irix. Her purple scales seemed to have lost some of their glow. Not just survived, Dr. Lisa replied. We thrived during the worst periods. Humans evolved during the ice ages when Earth was at its most hostile. We developed our intelligence, our tool use, and our social cooperation because we needed all of those things just to stay alive. She showed them images of early humans, hunting massive predators with simple weapons. Humans working together to bring down creatures 10 times their size. Humans making fire, building shelters, and creating art, even while living in one of the most dangerous periods in Earth's history. But that was the past, Huntmaster Grix said. What about your world now? Dr. Lisa smiled. Now is when things get really interesting. The display changed to show modern Earth, but these were not the peaceful images Jake had shown the day before. These were scenes of Earth's predators in action. Let me introduce you to some of our neighbors, Dr. Lisa said. The first image showed a great white shark breaching completely out of the ocean, its massive jaws clamped around a seal. This is a great white shark. It can grow to 20 feet long and has multiple rows of razor-sharp teeth. It can detect electrical fields produced by other animals' heartbeats and has existed virtually unchanged for over 400 million years. The aliens made disturbed sounds. On most of their worlds, such a creature would be the ultimate apex predator, ruling entire oceans. Earth has over 400 species of sharks, Dr. Lisa continued. She showed them polar bears hunting on ice, their massive paws breaking through barriers that would stop most creatures. Army ants moving in columns millions strong, consuming everything in their path. Saltwater crocodiles that could hold their breath for an hour while waiting for prey. These are just the large predators, she said. We also have predators you cannot see. The display showed microscopic images of bacteria and viruses. Earth's smallest predators have killed more humans than all the large ones combined. We exist in constant biological warfare with organisms that want to use our bodies as food or breeding grounds. Captain Steve Rogers entered the chamber during this part of the presentation. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and scars on his hands that spoke of physical experience. He wore a military uniform similar to Jake's, but with different badges. Sorry I'm late, he said to Dr. Lisa. The transport from Earth took longer than expected. High Counselor Irix gestured for him to join the presentation. Captain Rogers, Dr. Park has been explaining your world's predators. Tell us, how do humans defend against such creatures? Steve looked at the images on the display and shrugged. Mostly we try to avoid them, but sometimes we seek them out. Commander Zethkar's voice rose in pitch. You deliberately encounter these predators? Sure, Steve said casually. We call it extreme sports. Some people like to swim with sharks, climb mountains where there are bears, or dive in waters where there are jellyfish that can kill you in minutes. The alien stared at him in silence. Dr. Lisa brought up new images on the display. Humans in wetsuits swimming next to great white sharks. Humans climbing vertical rock faces with no safety equipment. Humans jumping out of aircraft with only thin fabric to slow their fall. You do these things for pleasure? Asked Huntmaster Grix. Entertainment, Steve confirmed. When life becomes too safe, some humans look for ways to add danger back in. We have sports where people throw themselves off cliffs, dive into caves underwater, or race vehicles at speeds that can kill them if they make a mistake. Dr. Lisa added more context. Human recreational activities include surfing waves that can crush bones, skiing down mountains where avalanches are common, and something called free climbing, ascending vertical surfaces with no safety equipment except their own strength and skill. The council members exchanged glances. They were beginning to understand that humans had a very different relationship with danger than they did. But surely your military forces are more cautious, High Counselor Erix asked. Steve laughed. Ma'am, our military training is designed to be more dangerous than most combat situations. We put soldiers through conditions that simulate the worst possible circumstances, then make them worse. He described survival training in deserts where the temperature could kill in hours, jungle training where every plant and animal was potentially lethal, and Arctic training in conditions that had claimed the lives of experienced explorers. We train soldiers to survive for weeks with no supplies in any environment on Earth, Steve explained. They learn to find water in places where there seems to be none, to catch and eat animals they have never seen before, and to build shelter from materials that other species would not recognize as useful. Dr. Lisa brought up a new set of data. This brings us to human adaptation capabilities. We are one of the few species that can survive in every major environment type on our planet. She showed them images of humans living in Arctic conditions, tropical jungles, high mountains, and desert regions, humans diving to depths that would crush most creatures, and climbing to heights where the air was too thin for most life to survive. Humans can adapt to environmental changes that would kill most species within days, she continued. We can survive temperature ranges from -40 degrees to over 40 degrees Celsius. We can live at sea level or at altitudes where the air pressure is too low for most creatures to breathe. Commander Zethkar spoke slowly. Your species lives in environments that would be considered hostile on most worlds. We consider them normal, Steve replied. Earth taught us that the universe is a dangerous place. We learned to handle that danger instead of just enduring it. Dr. Lisa brought up the final part of her presentation. There is one more thing you need to understand about humans and Earth. We are not the apex predator on our world. The aliens made surprised sounds. After everything they had learned, this seemed impossible. We are one of several apex predator species, Dr. Lisa explained. We share our world with creatures that can kill us easily if we are not careful. This created evolutionary pressure that made us intelligent, social, and adaptable. But it also made us humble. We know we are not the strongest or fastest or most dangerous. We survived by being smarter and working together. She showed them images of humans coexisting carefully with other predators. Farmers who had to protect their animals from wolves and bears. Fishermen who shared the oceans with sharks and giant squid. City dwellers who had to watch for mountain lions and venomous snakes even in populated areas. We learned to be apex predators not through physical dominance, but through intelligence, cooperation, and adaptability, she concluded. Earth made us strong by making us survivors. The council chamber was completely quiet when she finished. The aliens looked at each other, then at Jake and Steve, then back at the images still glowing on the display. Finally, High Counselor Erix spoke. We owe you an apology. We assumed your garden world produced a garden species. We were wrong. No offense taken, Jake said. Earth does look peaceful from space. That is part of what makes it so dangerous. The war room of Nexus Prime looked like the inside of a giant computer. Holographic displays showed battlefields from across the galaxy, and tactical information flowed in streams of light and data. The Council of Survivors had built this room to test the strategic thinking of potential members. Captain Amy Johnson stood at the central command console, her blonde hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. She wore the same blue uniform as the other humans, but her badges showed more experience in combat leadership. Around her, 5 other human military officers waited for instructions. The scenario is simple, explained Commander Zethkar. You command a small force defending a mining colony. Enemy forces outnumber you 10 to 1. Your supplies are limited and rescue will not arrive for 7 days. Most species surrender or choose to flee. Amy studied the holographic battlefield that appeared around her. The mining colony sat in a valley surrounded by hills. Enemy forces approached from 3 directions with superior weapons and vehicles. Her own force consisted of 200 soldiers with basic equipment. What are the victory conditions? She asked. Survival, High Counselor Erix replied. If any of your forces remain alive when rescue arrives, you succeed. Amy smiled. Just survival? That seems too easy. The alien council members looked at each other with confusion. Too easy? This scenario was based on actual battles that had destroyed entire civilizations. Begin simulation, Amy commanded. The holographic battlefield came to life. Enemy forces moved toward the colony in perfect formation, their vehicles advancing steadily across open ground. Most species would have set up defensive positions around the colony buildings and prepared for a siege. Amy did something different. She split her forces into small groups and sent them into the hills surrounding the valley. Instead of defending the colony, she abandoned it completely. What is she doing? Muttered Huntmaster Grix. She is giving up the objective. The enemy forces reached the empty colony and found no resistance. They began setting up their own defensive positions, thinking the battle was over. This was exactly what Amy had hoped for. Her small groups attacked from the hills, hitting enemy supply lines and communication equipment. They struck quickly and then disappeared before the enemy could respond. Each attack was small, but together they began to damage the enemy's ability to coordinate their large force. Guerrilla tactics, observed Dr. Ben Carter, who had arrived to monitor the psychological aspects of the test. He was a middle-aged man with gray hair and calm eyes. She is turning the enemy's size against them. The simulation continued for 3 days. Amy's forces never fought a direct battle, but they made life miserable for the enemy. They destroyed supply convoys, sabotaged equipment, and attacked isolated groups. The enemy became frustrated and began making mistakes. On the 4th day, Amy sprung her trap. The enemy had become so focused on hunting her small groups that they had spread their forces thin. Amy reunited her soldiers and attacked the enemy's main base with overwhelming force at a single point. Impossible, breathed Commander Zethkar. She turned a defensive scenario into an offensive victory. The simulation showed Amy's forces not only surviving but completely destroying the enemy army. She had won a battle she was supposed to lose. How? Asked High Counselor Erix. Amy powered down the holographic display. Superior numbers mean nothing if they cannot be used effectively. Large forces require more supplies, more coordination, and more communication. Those are all weaknesses that can be exploited. Dr. Ben Carter stepped forward to address the council. Captain Johnson's tactics demonstrate something important about human psychology. We do not see overwhelming odds as reasons to give up. We see them as tactical problems to be solved. He activated his own display showing brain scan data from humans under stress. Human beings have an unusual relationship with fear and pressure. Instead of becoming paralyzed by dangerous situations, we often become more creative and resourceful. The display showed chemical changes in human brains during combat situations. We produce adrenaline and other chemicals that increase our ability to think quickly and take risks. What other species experience as panic, we experience as enhanced performance. Colonel Maria Gonzalez joined the presentation. She was a woman in her 40s with short black hair and intense brown eyes. Her uniform showed decorations for service in multiple conflicts. Dr. Carter is describing our stress response, she said. But there is more to human tactics than individual psychology. We have developed military doctrine based on 4 million years of hunting in groups. She brought up tactical diagrams showing human military formations and strategies. Human warfare evolved from pack hunting. We learned to work together to bring down prey much larger and more dangerous than ourselves. The aliens studied the diagrams with growing interest. They showed complex coordination between different groups, with some acting as bait while others attacked from unexpected directions. This is very similar to how wolves hunt, observed Huntmaster Grix. But much more sophisticated. Exactly, Maria replied. Humans spent millions of years as both predators and prey. We learned predator strategies from necessity, but we also learned prey strategies for survival. This combination is unusual in the galaxy. She showed them examples of human military history, battles where small forces defeated much larger armies through superior tactics, sieges where defenders held out for months against impossible odds, campaigns where human forces adapted to completely unfamiliar environments and enemies. The key is flexibility, Maria explained. Human doctrine emphasizes adaptation over rigid strategy. We train our soldiers to think independently while working as part of a team. When plans fail, we improvise new ones immediately. Dr. Ben Carter added more psychological data. Humans also show something called post-traumatic growth. While trauma can damage some individuals, many humans become stronger and more capable after surviving difficult experiences. He showed brain scans comparing humans who had experienced combat with those who had not. Combat veterans often show enhanced decision-making abilities, improved stress tolerance, and increased creativity under pressure. The Alien Council members made disturbed sounds. This was the opposite of what happened to most species after trauma. Captain Amy Johnson returned to the command console. "Would you like to see another scenario?" "Yes," High Counselor Eric said immediately. "Something more challenging." The holographic battlefield changed to show a space battle. Human ships were outnumbered 20-1 by enemy vessels with superior weapons and shields. Amy studied the situation for only a moment before issuing orders. Her ship spread out in seemingly random directions, moving erratically through the battle space. "She has no formation," Commander Zethkar observed. "This looks like chaos, but Amy's apparent chaos had purpose. Her ships were moving to positions where the enemy's superior numbers worked against them. Large groups of enemy vessels kept getting in each other's way, unable to bring all their weapons to bear on the fast-moving human ships. The battle ended with complete human victory in less than an hour. Again, she turned disadvantages into advantages, noted Huntmaster Grix. Colonel Maria Gonzalez explained. "Human tactical doctrine assumes the enemy will have superior forces. We plan for being outnumbered, outgunned, and operating in hostile territory. These conditions do not discourage us. They are what we expect." Dr. Ben Carter provided the psychological context. Humans have evolved to see challenges as opportunities for growth rather than threats to avoid. Our brains are wired to find solutions to seemingly impossible problems. The testing continued for hours. The aliens presented scenario after scenario designed to test human breaking points. Urban warfare in hostile cities, survival missions on toxic planets, rescue operations in enemy territory. In every case, the human officers found ways to succeed where other species had failed. "There is one more test," High Counselor Eriks announced. "We will show you the worst defeat in Council history and ask what you would do differently." The display showed a massive battle where Council forces had been completely destroyed by an unknown enemy. Ships exploded in silence while soldiers died on barren planets. It was a scene of total defeat and despair. Amy studied the battle records carefully. After several minutes, she looked up at the Council. "I can see 3 major mistakes in the Council's strategy. With different tactics, this battle could have been won." The alien stared at her in shock. This battle had haunted the Council for decades. The enemy had seemed impossible to defeat. "Show us," whispered High Counselor Eriks. Amy began to explain her alternative strategy, pointing out weaknesses in the enemy formation that the Council had missed. She described ways to use the enemy's aggressive tactics against them, and methods for turning the battle's location from a disadvantage into an advantage. As she spoke, the Alien Council members realized they were seeing something unprecedented. These humans did not just think about survival, they thought about victory even in the worst circumstances. "We have seen enough," High Counselor Eriks announced. "The psychological evaluation is complete." She looked around at her fellow council members. Each alien face showed the same expression of amazed respect. "Humans do not just survive deathworlds," she said slowly. "They master them." The main council chamber was packed with representatives from every species in the Galactic Council of Survivors. Word had spread throughout Nexus Prime about the human testing results, and everyone wanted to witness the final vote on Earth's membership application. Jake Miller stood once again on the central platform, but the atmosphere in the room had changed completely. The laughter and dismissive sounds from days before were gone. Now the aliens watched him with expressions of respect, curiosity, and something that might have been caution. High Counselor Eriks rose from her seat, her purple scales catching the light as she moved. "We have completed our evaluation of humanity and their homeworld of Earth," she announced. Her voice carried to every corner of the chamber. "The results have been educational." Commander Zethkar activated the main display, showing the test scores from Jake's physical trials. "In pain tolerance, the human subject exceeded our measurement capabilities. Our equipment could not register his limits." Murmurs of amazement came from the assembled aliens. Some of them made sounds that might have been approval. "In survival adaptability," Zethkar continued, "the human adapted to hostile environments faster than our computers could generate new challenges. His responses suggested evolutionary programming for rapid adaptation to multiple threat types. Huntmaster Grix stepped forward to address the chamber. The combat evaluation revealed reflexes and tactical thinking beyond anything in our records. Captain Johnson's strategic victories included battles our own specialists considered impossible to win. The display changed to show clips from Amy's simulated battles. The aliens watched in silence as human forces turned desperate defensive positions into overwhelming victories. Dr. Ben Carter's psychological data appeared next. Human brain chemistry under stress produces enhanced performance rather than degraded function, High Counselor Erix explained. They become more capable in dangerous situations, not less. A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. What does this mean for the Council? The speaker was Ambassador Crix of the Zephyrins, whose people had survived worlds of endless storms. High Counselor Erix looked around the chamber before answering. It means we have discovered something unprecedented in galactic history. We have encountered a species that comes from a world more hostile than anything we have faced, and yet they thrive. She activated a new display showing comparative data between Earth and the Council homeworlds. Earth's environmental challenges exceed those of all Council worlds combined. Multiple apex predators, regular extinction events, climate extremes, and geological violence. Yet humans did not merely survive these conditions, they became the dominant species. Commander Zethkar added his analysis. Our deathworlds taught us to endure hardship. Earth taught humans to conquer it. Jake had remained silent during the presentations, but now High Counselor Erix gestured for him to speak. Do you have anything to add, Jake Miller of Earth? Jake looked around the chamber at the assembled aliens. We appreciate the thorough evaluation, he said simply. Earth taught us that the universe can be a dangerous place, but we learned that danger is just another problem to solve. And what are your people's intentions regarding galactic expansion? Asked Ambassador Crix. Jake considered the question. We want to explore and learn. There are many worlds in the galaxy that interest us, including some that other species consider uninhabitable. Dr. Lisa Park activated her presentation equipment from her seat in the observer section. If I may, she said, I have information about human colonization plans that might be relevant. High Counselor Erix nodded permission, and Lisa's data appeared on the main display. Humans have already identified 17 worlds for potential colonization, she announced. All of them were previously classified as impossible for habitation. The display showed images of these worlds. Planets with surface temperatures that would instantly kill most Council species. Worlds with atmospheres so toxic that exposure would dissolve biological tissues. Radiation levels that would sterilize most known genetics. These are not desperation choices, Lisa continued. These are worlds we consider interesting challenges. We have already developed preliminary terraforming strategies for most of them. The chamber erupted in surprised sounds. The aliens had spent centuries avoiding such worlds, considering them permanently hostile to life. Captain Steve Rogers stood up in the observer section. We also have volunteers ready for missions to worlds that cannot be terraformed. Some humans prefer to adapt themselves to hostile environments rather than changing the environments to suit us. Ambassador Crix made a sound that might have been nervous laughter. You would colonize worlds that would kill us to visit? Some of them, Jake confirmed. We see them as opportunities to learn and grow stronger. High Counselor Erix called for order in the chamber. We will now vote on Earth's application for membership in the Galactic Council of Survivors. The voting process was formal and ancient, with each species announcing their decision in their own language before translating to Galactic Common. But the outcome was never in doubt. The vote is unanimous, High Counselor Erix announced. Humanity is welcomed as the 15th member species of the Galactic Council of Survivors. The chamber filled with sounds of approval from the various species. But the celebration was tempered by a new understanding of what this membership meant. Commander Zethkar approached Jake after the ceremony. I have a request, he said. My people would like to learn human survival techniques. Perhaps we could arrange an exchange program. Similar requests came from other council members. The Melthani wanted to study human adaptation methods. The Saurians were interested in human tactical doctrine. Even the proud Kethmori admitted they could learn from human resilience training. High Counselor Erix made the final announcement of the session. The Council will establish new protocols based on human capabilities. We will create joint colonization projects for worlds previously considered impossible. Human military advisors will be integrated into Council defense forces. Most importantly, we will revise our understanding of what it means to be a survivor species. As the session ended and the aliens began to leave, many of them approached the human delegation. They wanted to shake hands, share stories, or simply examine these remarkable beings from up close. Jake found himself surrounded by curious aliens asking questions about Earth. How did humans develop such pain tolerance? What was it like to live among so many predators? Did they really jump out of aircraft for entertainment? Dr. Lisa Park was equally popular, with alien scientists eager to study her data on Earth's ecosystem. Several species requested permission to send research teams to Earth, though Lisa gently suggested they might want to start with simulated environments first. Captain Amy Johnson was approached by military leaders from across the council. They wanted to understand human tactics, to learn how a species could consistently turn disadvantages into victories. As the day ended, Jake stood in his quarters looking out at the stars through a small porthole. Earth was too far away to see, but he knew it was there, a small blue world that had produced something the galaxy had never seen before. A gentle chime announced a visitor. High Counselor Erix entered, her large frame barely fitting through the doorway designed for smaller species. "I wanted to speak with you privately," she said. "The Council is honored to have humanity as members, but I must ask, what are your people's true intentions?" Jake turned from the porthole. "We want to explore, learn, and help where we can. Earth taught us to be strong, but it also taught us to work together. We think the galaxy could benefit from more cooperation between species." Erix nodded slowly. "And if you encounter species that prefer conflict to cooperation, then we help them learn better methods," Jake replied calmly. "Earth taught us to handle difficult neighbors." High Counselor Erix made a sound that might have been laughter. "I believe the galaxy is about to become a much more interesting place." As she left, Jake returned to his view of the stars. Somewhere out there were worlds that would challenge even human adaptability, new ecosystems to study, new environments to master, and new friends to make among the stars. Earth had prepared humanity for this moment. The death world that had forged them into ultimate survivors had also taught them something the galaxy desperately needed: that any challenge could be overcome with intelligence, cooperation, and the refusal to give up. The humans were ready to share those lessons with the universe.